Hi everyone, it's Dila London. Today my guest is Dave LeBleu, an electronic musician and multi-instrumentalist. I've discovered him through his collaboration with the album Leaf, where he plays the drums. Hello Dave, it's nice to see you.
Hi, nice to see you.
Tell me a little bit about your background. When did you start to study music and how did you build your career?
Well, I got into music as a kid, playing saxophone. When I got into middle school, I ended up starting the drums, so around 12. Went to school in post-education or college for music. And right after that, I pretty much just started playing in, well, I'd already been playing in bands and things like that from like 16 on. But that's when me and the people that started the Mercury program really began. And that's how I met Jimmy, just from touring around. We were both on Tiger Style together. But yeah, so I started playing drums 30 years ago. Yeah, something like that.
So what's Tiger Star, was it?
Tiger Style was a record label based in New York in the early 2000s. I don't think they really lasted. Well, they were around for a while, but they folded like many labels of that era. But they were pretty responsible for kind of launching Jimmy's career with Tristeza and Album Leaf.
So you met through that record label, and then how did you start working together?
Yeah, so we would both be doing these tours a couple times a year, again in the early 2000s. And we would just cross paths and be playing the same venues, sometimes the same shows. And yeah, there was just some mutual respect for our bands. And we just, actually, I was on a Mercury program tour in 2006. No, I'm sorry, 2010, when Jimmy actually called me. It was like their last show of the trip, and he called me out of nowhere. I had not spoken to him in a couple years, and he was like, "Hey, I'm kind of switching things up with the Album Leaf. Do you want to be the drummer?" And so I was quick to jump on that, and it's been great. Yeah, so I was just realizing it has been 10 years since joining.
Yeah, that's a cool anniversary, a big one.
Mm-hmm.
So how many instruments do you play, and do you have a favorite?
I play quite a few. I mean, I dabble in keyboards. I've built synthesizers of the modular type. So yeah, piano, and I learned piano in school. I'm a hack though. Don't ask me to sit down and sight read immediately. But yeah, bass guitar.
Saxophone?
But yeah, saxophone. And I think drums are sort of the thing I've been drawn to the most, and I keep coming back to. It's fun to be able to have access to the more melodic or harmonic instruments and be able to kind of make and write songs, and not just be like this person banging away on drums in the background.
Can you name 1 to 3 drummers that influenced and inspired you the most?
I think in the early days when I was learning, people like Steve Shelley of Sonic Youth, and when I ended up getting into jazz, it was people like Elvin Jones and Tony Williams. Later on when I started kind of coming into my own as a drummer, people like Damon Shea of Don Caballero. Yeah, just was really influenced by people filling up lots of space with sound as a drummer. So, I don't know, being really technical and...
Yeah, well, explain to someone as me who knows very little about drums how a drummer can express his or her personality through the drums, and how do you find ways to interpret a piece that go along with who you are as a person?
Well, I feel like there's just a certain energy that one wants to convey through any instrument that they may play.
Of course.
By using the drums, oftentimes it's how, like, I used to get a lot of comments from people on how dynamic I played. Like, I would be able to get really loud and also have a lot of control while playing softly.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and so I think being able to play proficiently in that way uh, can really help someone dial in uh, feels like their sound or the way they, um, you know, create or write. Yeah, so again, I think a lot of it has to do with this, like, you're conveying sound out into the universe, so to speak, um,
Yes.
and you want to connect with people because of what you're doing, um,
Yes.
and yeah, so I don't know, it's just a general feeling, I guess, to be put forth
Mm-hmm.
through the drums.
And do you use acoustic drum set or electronic only, and why?
I mostly use an acoustic drum set.
Okay.
Just recently, I've gotten into a software hardware combination called Sensory Percussion that a friend of
Mm-hmm.
mine in New York, Dalakael Esparza, created. Um, and it has kind of opened up the world of what an acoustic drum can be to a drummer. So,
Mm-hmm.
for instance, each drum has a sensor on it and a software that reads how you play that drum. So you can kind of, whatever the way your style of playing, how hard you hit, where you hit the drum, these things can
Mm-hmm.
be interpreted by the software to control things that aren't drums. So, like, you can play chords and notes by hitting parts of the drum in a certain way, and that's very appealing to me because as a songwriter as well, it allows me to sort of map things to a drum and play
Mm.
those things
Yeah.
with my sort of rhythmic. Um, I guess it's just what I'm drawn to is to be rhythmically playing something. So um,
That really does open
yeah,
up a world.
yeah, absolutely. In some of I think the video that I sent you is essentially me using that software. That was an acoustic drum set I was playing, but all of the heads are silent, so they're just mesh heads. So if you were watching me in person, you might hear these little taps and things, but it would not sound like a drum was being hit.
I see.
But you would hear the sound being created from the software and the sound
Yes.
choices that I made.
What projects are you working on currently? And did you find a way to work on distance maybe during quarantine?
Well, I'm just working on this solo music essentially. I've
Mm-hmm.
been kind of setting up my studio. Uh, uh, I don't know, it's been a long time coming, but I finally have a room in my house to dedicate towards doing all of this, and so I've been just kind of slowly putting that together. But yeah, basically, I've just been working on this solo project, which is using that sensor and hardware sensory percussion. Um, Jimmy and I have spoken a bit about doing some collaboration and working on another record. It hasn't really materialized, even probably as much as both of us would have wanted to over this period of pandemic and sort of
Yes.
social isolation. Um, I think part of it is a result of all of this stuff that's going on. Is sort of you would think, oh, I have all this time to work on things, and yet I don't really have the motivation, mindset, or energy to put into it. So
Yes.
it's been tough. But yeah, so for right now, I'm just trying to work on a solo record and set up my studio.
Now, what do you think of one of the current trends in music, genre fusion, or some may say that genres are disappearing?
Obviously, people like to label things so they know what they're listening to, or if
Yes.
they may or may not even want to listen to it. So I guess in a way, genres exist and are important for that. But I am totally fine with genre fusion or bending or destruction. There's been a lot of new names to describe various musics and things, um, and maybe that's really to help people find that are interested in something similar, help people find it. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. I never really think about that I'm pretty generic in saying, oh, I make electronic music because that's basically what I make. It probably
Yeah.
gets way more nuanced than that, but that's generally what I do.
Yeah.
But yeah, I love the idea of genres kind of coming together and making new musics just because two different forms got together, and or three or four.
Let's get into touring. What do you like the most about touring, and do you have any funny, weird stories related to that?
Yeah, I like touring. It can be really challenging.
Can imagine.
What I like about it is just the kind of everything's new every day. Um, you're in a new place. I've gotten to see a lot of the world just by touring, mostly from touring.
Mm-hmm.
And even though you just get a little snippet of a city or a town every day or every couple days, um, you can get really take in a lot from that experience. Um, it is really challenging though to tour. I mean, you're sometimes you're not getting much sleep, and you're pretty much on a a plane, a train, or uh, an automobile of some kind almost
Moving,
every
moving,
day.
moving. Yeah.
Yeah, so it can be kind of grueling, and but your day job is basically to travel, arrive at a venue, set up your equipment, and then do a show.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, so and then break it down and do it all over again the next day. So it's cool. It's not something a lot of people get to do, and it's super unique, and I'm glad I'm able to do it.
Do you have any funny stories that you can
Uh,
recall or share?
um, there's, I'm sure there's plenty of things. I guess in the general sense, it's really some of the best things about touring as well, and are these funny things that happen, like you run into friends that are also on tour, and you just collide with them for a night or two, um, and therefore again enhancing the experience. Um, you eat really weird foods in strange cities across the world. I think in
Yeah.
Japan, that's one of the more interesting places I've gotten to go, and they always seem to have something really interesting to eat at the dinner after the show, whether it be like raw horse or uh, squid or tempura fish semen. Really bizarre
Oh
things
god.
that don't exist in most cultures. So, uh,
You have to have courage to try that. I mean, it's
yeah,
not for
definitely.
everybody.
No, no,
Have
yeah,
to be curious, truly curious.
yeah.
Is there any song or piece that you particularly love as a drummer, or any when you play any other instrument that you play that you love performing live?
That is a piece of music of my own.
Yeah.
Um, hmm. Uh, I would say generally I like the feeling overall. I guess there isn't really one song or something that pops out, but I think
Mm-hmm.
when you play in a band with people and you have a really good rapport and friendship, camaraderie with these people, and you create with them, I think that connection that can happen when you're on stage or um, in a rehearsal setting or you're writing. I think the magic of playing with other people is when these little ideas like come out and rear their head, and that sparks someone else into wanting to create on top of that, and then it just goes in another direction, and sometimes it ends
Yeah.
up nowhere near where it started. That's really special to me about
Mm-hmm.
really music in general, but
Yeah.
especially in any of the songs that I've been a part of in the creation of. That is probably the most important part of it to me.
Mm-hmm. Can you think of the worst and the best venue that you've performed in?
Uh, yes. Um, let's see. Probably one of the best venues in terms of not necessarily. I mean, there's various reasons why a venue could be good or bad, I guess. In terms of just the grandness and
Hmm.
even to an extent the sound, the Union Chapel in London
I've seen
is
it on
always
your Insta stories. That's how I came up with this question.
okay. Yeah, so that's a really incredible venue. It's basically like an old church or
Looked
cathedral.
very special, yeah.
Yeah, and I guess one time we were in China, and I think we were in Hangzhou. We played this weird Knights of Columbus Hall, and it was just like kind of in shambles. And
Hmm.
when we got there, and there was no one around to really ask what was going on, and the equipment was really, I would say, barely usable. I spilled this tray of like grease or something all over my pants when I was moving it
Oh,
off the stage, and I don't know. There's just there's often times when a, an amalgamation of events can come together and make something really
sure,
bad. Whether you had a flat tire on the way to the show, or
sure.
you know, rarely is it that oh there wasn't a lot of people there or something like
Mm.
that. It's usually
Mm.
something that gets a little more under your skin that is just can't be helped in any way. So
Hmm. You can't really control it, yeah.
no, exactly,
And
and you have to find your zen and just be like, oh, I just got to deal with it because every day is something new. Uh, something cool
hmm
happens, something like really stupid and terrible happens, or but that's part of the adventure.
that, yeah, that's true. Have you had any recent music discoveries that resonated with you particularly well?
I've been watching a lot of live streams because there aren't really shows to go to, and
Yeah.
there's a drummer who also uses the same drumming sort of sensor setup that I use. His name is Max Jaffe,
Mm-hmm.
and I've seen a couple of his live streams, and sort of what he's doing right now has been sort of the most interesting stuff I've been seeing as a fellow drummer and an improviser. I really enjoy his sort of use of his drum kit and the sounds he's making. So,
Cool. Okay, that's all of the questions I have for you today, Dave. Thank you so much.
yeah, thanks.
Thank you so much for watching. I'll leave the links related to Dave's music projects in the description box down below. Please share this video if you liked it and subscribe to stay up to date. I'll see you very soon. Ciao!